What's up guys, it's Kevin with K-Squared Fitness. Today I'm going to be breaking down the deficit deadlift. Alright guys, so key points of performance, and actually before we get into the actual movement, I want to break things down with just our body weight first. And the first thing always is when you're doing any type of hip hinging movement like the deadlift, we got to think about the feet and we got to think about the spine. So from the feet, it should be right under your hips, slightly turned out is okay, but what matters the most is you externally rotating from the floor, actually screwing my foot into the ground, pushing it in tight, making good contact with the big toe. Never here, locking it in. Once you get your feet established, you'll feel the difference, what it does to your glutes and turns your hamstrings on when you go into the hip hinge. So feet are locked in, bend the knees, and then we're gonna go hips back. Shins are vertical, no rounding in the back. You should be able to get into a good position when my knees are tracking out, getting a lot of good hamstring activation. If you're having a difficult time and you're trying to pull from here, this is no good on the back. Actually, I want you to take a step back and get on the floor in a cat and cow and give me some of these guys so you can feel that position that we want you to be in and not rounding. So that whenever you get back and you try to figure it out, you're thinking feet, bend the knees, hips go backward. If you're still rounded, maybe now that you've done it on the floor, you're like, okay, now I can get into this good position. Now we can approach the bar. So the deficit deadlift, the purpose of it is that we're pulling for longer, so it's a technique drill or a different positional drill so we can get a stronger deadlift and get in the habit of pulling for longer. So typically a 2-inch deficit is good enough. These are 25-pound plates. I stack them both up and then we get locked and loaded. From this position, we cannot be ever rounded in the back. Before we ever start, I like to think about if there was a car in a ditch and there was a tow truck driver trying to pull him out, he would have his chain on the car and they would pull it out slowly so the chain wouldn't break, as opposed to if the chain was on the car and they punched it, the chain would snap. The chain is your back. So when you start, you can't whip it off the floor. You need to be super tight, have the chain tight, and pull slowly. So I'm locked and loaded. I've got tension on the bar. It's not soft. I'm tension here, and then I can drive through. Most people struggle on the deadlift is on the way down. As the weight gets heavier, tries to pull them going forward here. Like we talked about earlier, unlock the knees, squeeze the shoulders, and then push the hips back so that you can get into a good spinal position. If you notice at the bottom of your deadlift, if you don't have the range of motion, maybe you're good here, and then you buckle because you run out of hamstring mobility, the deficit deadlift probably isn't for you. Make sure you're training a good position so that we have carryover when we get into the actual deadlift movement. That's the deficit deadlift. Get out.